Hi, everybody. Hello. People are logging on. We really need some music, some like music that plays while people log on.
Got the
Okay.
guitar here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Sam, we should jam.
We should. What do you?
Oh.
Yeah. We'll save that for afterwards. But yeah, look, I mean, I think marketing teams are all about giving the people what they want. So
Yes, sir.
you got to be ready at any time.
I can bring death metal vocals and a rhythm guitar.
Perfect.
Pretty good on the French horn. So.
All right. I like new soundscapes. I think that sounds like a great idea.
All right. Well, thanks for joining, everybody. Welcome to our social media marketing for cybersecurity town hall. So basically some housekeeping items before we start. This is going to be a super interactive town hall. So feel free to drop any questions you have in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, in the chat. Hopefully I'm pointing the right direction in the chat, or raise your hand if you want to jump on screen with us and ask our question live to our amazing esteemed panelists. So now, also this will be recorded, so it'll be on our YouTube channel later. Hi, Kelsey. Looking forward to hearing your questions as we go through all the things you want to hear about how to do really good social media marketing for cybersecurity, which, as we all know as cybersecurity marketers, is super hard. So I'm going to introduce our amazing panel. First off, we have Damian Tomasino, the co-founder of Cyber Informants. We have Michael Yehoshua, the vice president of global marketing at SCADAfence. And we have Dr. Sam Small, who is actually a security practitioner and going to give us an interesting perspective there, who's the chief security officer at ZeroFox. So again, leave your questions in the chat. And I'm also going to let the panelists give a quick overview of themselves. Damian, let's start with you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So as Gianna said, I am Damian Tomasino. I'm the co-founder for Cyber Informants. So what we're doing is taking on a new twist to how you do the buying experience in cybersecurity. So we're looking to disrupt a lot of the traditional marketing tactics, a lot of the traditional sales tactics, kind of knock marketing and sales heads together and get everybody to play nicely to make these unforgettable experiences for cybersecurity companies.
Awesome. Michael, how about you?
It's been a long journey. I currently am the VP of Marketing at SCADAfence, a company that does industrial cybersecurity, something which Sam Small will know a little bit more about. Overall, I've been in cybersecurity for a couple of years, not so many though. I have been a musician. I was a fashion photographer. I've done a little bit of everything. So I like to use creativity in my marketing. That's my forte. That's how I do it on social media too. And we'll get into that later on in the session.
Awesome. That is amazing. And I think it actually mirrors a lot, not everybody, but a lot of how like a lot of marketers get into cybersecurity marketing. They take kind of a winding path. A lot of us come from, not just working previously at cybersecurity or being trained in cybersecurity. And so Dr. Sam Small, please introduce yourself.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And everyone can just call me Sam. We joked about this in the pre-call. So I'm Sam Small. I'm the Chief Security Officer at ZeroFox. ZeroFox is one of the leaders in the digital risk protection space. So what that means is we help organizations protect themselves, their customers, their employees across anything that's outside the traditional concept of a perimeter. So that would be anywhere from social media, deep web, dark web, open web, et cetera. So we help people find threats that put their customers at risk, and then we help them mitigate and deal with those risks and threats, because when you're outside, again, your control, it's a little more difficult than the traditional idea that you might wipe a machine or isolate a machine. Now you have to deal with a third-party platform and go through their process to have things removed or mitigated. And so we help our customers do that. That's what we do. My background, just real briefly, started as an academic, obviously, picked up that doctor title to make my parents happy, and then I've been in the software security industry ever since, as a consultant, an entrepreneur, and product developer. and is an executive. So I've done a lot of different things and have a lot of different perspectives, not quite as fulfilling and interesting as Michael's background, which sounds amazing. But it's all of our experiences that make this here. And just real quickly before we start, I want to thank Gianna and her co-founders of the Cyber Marketing Society, just real briefly. Again, I know it wasn't as simple as it looked to me, but it looked like you created an amazing community overnight almost. And I'm really happy to be a part of it. I've learned so much, and these types of things are just really wonderful. Really wonderful venue that just didn't exist for me a year ago. I don't, and I don't know about anyone else, but so thank you guys for putting in all that effort to make this happen.
Thank you, Sam. And thank you for reminding me to plug our group because I completely forgot. All right, everybody who's watching, this is produced by the Cybersecurity Marketing Society, which is a trade group of cybersecurity marketing people. We also accept sales people. And of course, cybersecurity practitioners who are interested in helping marketing out, like Sam. So join us. We are at cybersecuritymarketingsociety.com, and we have a very active, I like to think very fun Slack channel community where you can join and we all help each other out, ask questions, answer each other's questions, help each other with our marketing problems, and also produce events like this. So we have a ton of virtual events that we have coming up, including on the topics of virtual events, on the topics of PR. So check out those events and sign up where you signed up for this one on our LinkedIn page. Okay, cool. So to jump right into it, here is kind of an interesting topic. So content strategy, social media strategy, what is the difference between the two? Damien, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start us off. So they're actually one and the same. So if you look at content strategy, it's really the overarching theme of how you produce content for a company. So if you're going to talk about a particular topic, how do you produce content to that topic, and then in what formats you distribute that topic? When it comes to social media, it's really just a distribution channel for the content you want to get out the door. So you can't really do social media effectively without having a content strategy. And vice versa. If you try and do a content strategy without knowing which distribution channels you want to leverage to produce your content or distribute your content, you're going to have trouble there. I think the big challenge runs into a lot of people are like, okay, let's start a company. And then we have all these social media channels we got to get up and running on. And they don't really know what they want to say. And then you run into this kind of chicken and egg problem of, we have a lot of things to say. Actually, we don't have a lot of things to say. What do we want to talk about? Oh, I don't know what we want to talk about. So you can't really do one without the other.
I think that's huge. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. I wasn't sure what the format is for how we answer here. So I just wanted to pick up on what Damien said briefly. And Damien and I have talked about some of this stuff before, and we agree about a lot of this stuff. So we're either both really right or both really wrong. But but given his experience, I think it's probably the former. Anyway, I was just going to say briefly, I just wanted to add, I think it's also about not only like what you want to say and who you want to say it to, but where are they as well? Because, I'll just make a super obvious example. If you're trying to reach, security professional executives who happen to probably be somewhere north of 40, like you're not going to catch them on TikTok. So that social media strategy also has to apply appropriately to the channels that you're using for the audience you're trying to reach.
Yeah. So I'll actually
which goes back to, I was gonna say, it goes back to being as part of your content strategy.
Yeah.
So both of you guys said both very, very brilliant things, although I think that they're both different. In order to do it correctly, you got to do what Damien said. But I see many companies like complete noobs on social media where they create content, but what they post on social media is like random irrelevant shit, like a post, like an article or something that they didn't even write. And what it does is it actually confuses their people. Like they have a social media strategy, it's just not their content, which is like really, really dumb. And I see it over and over in cybersecurity companies, because what they try to do is they try to make the problem sound much bigger, but they're not actually providing content that offers a solution, and they're just shooting themselves in the leg.
Ooh, sorry, go ahead. Someone was going to reply.
Oh, I'll say I agree 100%. I mean, I think it's tough, and we create our own problems a lot of the time. You know, I think there's some executives who you know, who the chief marketing officer answers to, who then the social media person on the marketing team answers to that person, and you know, at the top it's why am I not seeing more activity? I want to see tweets. I want to see social media posts and things like that. It's like, well, look, if you don't know why you're posting something or what you expect someone to get out of it, or there's not a clear kind of expectation of what they're going to do next or any of those sorts of things, then you're just wasting time, and making it look like you're busy doesn't accomplish anything. So going back to both Damien and Michael's answers, like if there's not a plan in place, you should stop doing those things and work on the plan. Because until you know what you're trying to accomplish, you can't accomplish it. It's just, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So
Yeah,
I think that's exactly right.
Alignment's a huge problem, right? If everybody is just going after followers because they think it's the thing that executives want to see, when in reality executives are looking for leads or revenue drivers, there's misalignment there. And then you also have sales. Yes, I know the dirty word of sales. You have sales who is looking for those conversations, and how do I start conversations on social media, which is totally different from what marketing is trying to achieve. So yeah, like Sam said, if you don't have that alignment there from sales to marketing to executives just across the board, you're going to have a lot of problems, and you're probably shooting for the wrong targets.
Yeah, it's a trap, right? Don't get caught in the trap, right? Is basically the idea. Right?
Yep.
Interesting.
Like someone's like Twitter's KPIs that they care about shouldn't be what you care. You should not care about impressions and engagement on that one tweet that you posted yesterday. Do not get suckered into that trap.
So this is interesting because what I've seen a lot on LinkedIn and from people who are influencers is a lot of talk right now, and I think this has to do with how we moved all away from in-person events to everything virtual. A lot of talk on brand awareness. So if I was going to be the devil's advocate here, which I am, you could say, okay, wait, but okay, other companies are doing this really engaging, interesting, kind of weird stuff on social media. We see things on, you know, the classic like Wendy's, like Burger King, Twitter, like weird stuff that gets them a lot of attention, a lot of mentions in media, a lot of reach that way. Like, what is just the overall panel's thoughts on this trend of, like, I'm calling it weirdification, the weirdification and the engagement driven strategies of companies on social media? And can cybersecurity companies even fit into this? Can we get good engagement for doing funny or interesting or weird things, or is it too far away from what the heart of what cybersecurity companies do, which needs a lot of brand trust involved, which is security? What, just like broad open topic, what do you guys think?
All right, I'll start this off again.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So the number one most underfunded department or role in all of marketing is creative. And everything that Gianna just said, the Wendy's, the commercials we watch, I mean, you have the political ads with election season coming up. That's all creative. It's creative driving the engagement. And yes, you still need words in order to put creative to words to have a full-blown ad, but brand awareness is kind of this misnomer, right? You want your company to have awareness so that people come to you to buy your product at the end of the day. But the thing is, you're not trying to get your brand awareness just from putting out content or social media. What you need is something to engage people, and that comes from creative. So if you want to connect with people on a human level, which is what those B2C companies are doing, which we should start doing more of in B2B, you need a lot better creative to make that connection a reality. And every company that I've either worked for or worked with or alongside of has always underfunded creative. And that's kind of the key to making that a reality.
Yeah, I think that's right. I also think, again, it can look so easy to us on the outside to be like, oh, Wendy's just killed it with like 120 characters and like, let me try, right? It's not, it's like, there's a whole team there, and there's a whole strategy, and there's a whole campaign there. And I mean, I think that's the word like I would probably hit on over and over again when I have these conversations is, you know, you don't do anything outside of a campaign. Again, it's kind of like, if you don't know what you're trying to achieve, and you don't have a theory or hypothesis on how to achieve it, and you don't have kind of an idea on how you'll measure your success to steer the ship, then you're not going to be successful. And so I think, it can be really easy to fool yourself into thinking that you can just try to be funny today, or try to pursue some particular type of kind of engaging or different weird way to do things. But again, if you're not really committed to it, and if it's not kind of a holistic approach, I think you'll fall down, or you'll only be talking to a certain portion of your audience, and you might even be alienating another portion. And I do think like it's a little easier in the B2C world to kind of have these kind of fun things, but at the end of the day, again, like think about the people who actually sign the purchase orders for your products, and like think of that demographic, and like, are they going to think the same thing is funny as the Twitterverse thinks is funny? That being said, I think there's a ton of room for creativity in this space, and I don't think we're seeing nearly as much of it as we should. And I think even for those that aren't familiar with the Cyber Marketing Society, if you go back to like the awards that you guys had recently, was it Axonius or whatever, had a really cool campaign around doing these debates between security experts on a topic. And I think, again, like those types of things, there's so much room for that stuff, and it is exciting, and it's not about their product, and it does build their brand. So there's a lot of opportunity, but I just think we have to be careful that and I think Michael does a really great job of this. He knows where he can post his memes, but he's not posting all these silly memes like on his company's, official Twitter page. And
I do.
Is that true?
But it's not all you do, right? And
Right.
you talk to different people with different purpose. So anyway, with that said, I'll let Michael explain his meme philosophy.
Yeah,
Great.
Michael,
So-
share with us your philosophy. Tell us what's working and what creative things you've done. I know that Scatafence, I know you have examples that you might want to share. So tell us.
Just too many. But first of all, to answer your question, which Damien and Sam spoke of very, very brilliantly, and Sam stole a little bit of my thunder when I was trying to say what works in B2C does not necessarily work in B2B. And it's a very, very big paradigm shift, because now you're not selling to, a 14-year-old girl who's going to buy a burger. You're selling to a CISO of a very large security organization who doesn't have time for anything, who's busy with people like us. Each and every one of you guys, attendees, each and every one of you send them an email this week or put a close this, and they're just overloaded. So yes, Damien mentioned that creativity is something that is very, very important, but you also have to know how to get in their way. Now, I can tell you something that worked for me at my previous company, the previous cyber company. There was a very large, they're sort of like a big cyber company who buys a lot of other companies, and they made a post about, pigs will fly before yada, yada, yada. So I actually posted a GIF of a dancing pig from my company's, what's it called? And we're like, we see you, and we put at the company's name. And what happened was the company's social media director was just so taken aback by that they're like, who the hell is this company, TrapX Security? And they went on our profile and they saw that our Twitter page was full of content, and then our LinkedIn page was full of content, and our website was like a really, really rich hub of knowledge. And this was a piece of technology they were interested in looking into. And what ended up happening was this company got into talks of actually purchasing the company, made an offer to the company declined. But that's already another story. But from a small GIF of a dancing pig on Twitter, I was able to bring the company, hundreds of millions of dollars to just be bought out. Didn't end up happening, but when you do that properly and you do it with thought, you can actually get really good results.
I think that's a really good point. I just want to point this out. I know it's kind of subtle and obvious once I point it out, but like that was not a post. That was not an original broadcast post that you posted. That was a reply to someone else. You actually engaged. And I think that's a huge mistake I see all the time. People go on social, companies go on social, and they expect everyone to take in all their stuff, but they don't want to give back and participate and engage or promote other things or share or be a part of that conversation. And then they get upset when no one's having a conversation with them. And it's like, I remember an old Pee Wee Herman episode when I was a kid. And, the thing was like, look, if you want to receive mail from your friends, then maybe you should write a letter to your friends first. And it's kind of that same idea, right?
Yep. Marriage is give and take. I give and she takes. All right.
Oh, geez.
And it's also important to note too that like all engagement is not equal, right? If you're looking at brand awareness is not about driving revenue most of the time. You know, Michael had a very specific story to it, but most of the time brand awareness is about promoting your brand or getting your brand top of mind. In that regard, you may not always get the kind of engagement you're looking for, but it's more about impressions. But if you're looking more for the lead category or how do I generate revenue or how do I start a sales related conversation, you do need to engage with people, and not just one person, especially not just the CISO either. You need to engage across the line from everyone who is deploying your solutions, everyone who's operating your solution, all the way up. And when you have the engagement of those individuals and you're connecting with them, they'll eventually start bubbling those conversations up to the CISOs, the VPs, and say, look, we're having these good conversations because they're engaged with us. They have good content. You should look at this.
So so I'm gonna dig a little deeper into that, Damien. Can you share any tactics there? Because a lot of us and a lot of our audience, hi Kate, hi Amanda, hi Emily, hi Hilda, like are probably working on super small teams. So this kind of goes back to a resource question, right? Like social media like can lead to a lot of great things, like what Michael just shared. But like for any of you who have worked on a small team, like how do you prioritize that? Like Damien, like, okay, like we're trying to talk to like, our three main audiences, like how are you splitting that up? Can you share a little bit more about like your strategy behind that?
Yeah, so it goes back to the original question you asked when we started this conversation today. It's content strategy, right? As part of that content strategy, you need to know what you're going to do with your content, from repurposing or slicing it up and how you get it out the door. Because if you're a team of one, your time is your most critical asset, right? You can't be producing 5 white papers and 10 ebooks and 50 social posts in a week. You just physically do not have that much time. So knowing what the most key or pillar asset you want to produce is for each person within your target audience, and then how do you slice that up into a webinar, into social quotes, that is the most critical thing you can do. And one of the successful things I've seen from a tactic, and I've done it too, is creating a template, even if it's just for yourself, because it'll scale with you as you grow, but creating a template. So if I write a blog post, here's 4 copy blocks for social media that go along with the blog post, or here is how I can take different pieces of this and turn it into social graphics along the way. And knowing how to get that workflow going, even for a party of one, is super critical.
Yeah, I think so. There, I often think of like 2 kind of concepts related to what Damien's talking about, just conceptually or analogously, or metaphorically rather. Or how many adjectives can I come up with? But anyway, the idea is, like I think of like 2 things. I think of like recycling, and I always think of like the recycling logo of like reuse, reduce, recycle. And I also think of kind of I can't think of the right phraseology for it, but the idea that, if you're going to kill an animal, you try to use every piece of that animal, whether it's, the skin for creating leather and, and different parts of the animal for different meals and things like that. And you don't want to waste anything. It's the same idea here. If you're going to create a piece of content, don't waste anything, right? You should be able to, if you're going to invest in a piece of long form content or any significant investment of any cornerstone piece, you should be able to kind of slice that up and dissect it and package it up to lots of different places in lots of different sizes for lots of different demographics, lots of different places along the customer journey. And you should be thinking about that as you're creating the content, and that should be part of the plan as you're creating the content. So by the time you're done creating that big piece of content that's exhausting, you're not just so exhausted that you're just like, okay, let me just drop it on the internet and see what happens. Like, that's not a strategy. That's not a campaign, and you're not squeezing every ounce of juice out of that piece of fruit that you can and that you should. And frankly, that's how you get more out of less. Now, it sounds like a little bit more than just writing that piece of content, but it's way less than trying to create new pieces of content for all those different things that you could get from the the quartering and trussing and packaging of all those pieces. Sorry to be so graphic with.
I'm a vegetarian, so I don't appreciate that, and I'm gonna cut this part of the video out.
Well, use all parts of the plant, right? Use the roots, use the flower, use the stem,
use the root.
Yeah.
So yeah, and just to add to what Sam spoke about you repurposing content. Right before I got on the session, I was a host and moderator on a webinar. This webinar was born from a presentation. I had a PowerPoint presentation that my CTO did for a customer on patching industrial devices. I took that document, I made it really, really beautiful on PowerPoint, animated it, made it gorgeous. Then I sent it out to one of my partners. I'm like, hey, listen, this is a tremendous opportunity to do a really technical webinar to your target audience on patching. And they're like, really, we can do that? Sure. I'm like, here, the document is ready. It was already used before, but they didn't know that. And what happened was now we had a webinar. Tomorrow, I'm going to turn that webinar into a white paper, which is going to be able to be downloaded. Not only that, I'll actually cut out little pieces of that webinar, like something really like a 2-minute session, which is like a really, really core part. And I'll post that on social media. And I'm like, here, this is a 2-minute excerpt from the webinar called yada, yada, yada. To watch the full webinar, click here. So instead of just putting a generic image, I'm actually taking that piece and putting it there. Now, additionally, there are events, not RSA or Black Hat, but there are a lot of other events that exist, which are industry specific, each one in your own industry. And what we tell people is like, listen, we have experts who know about industrial device patching. Here is a presentation that we can actually give a speech on, and that gives you a free speaking session. So that's one piece of content that I split into many, many different pieces. And for the next piece of content, I'll do something similar.
Yeah, and maybe just one thing I want to add here briefly as well is, and here's where I think like your marketing team members can also help you do a better job here. You know, whoever's writing that piece of content, flagship content, let's say it's a white paper, like instead of just asking them to deliver the white paper, ask them to also deliver, you know, 5 like takeaways and 3 quotes from there that are really impactful. Because again, I think when it's just so inefficient to hand that over to then the person who's supposed to post to social and make them try to read this content and pick out, you know, the idea that they would understand what's going to really resonate with the security buyer when like that's not their background or expert. You know, like don't make it harder than it needs to be. Someone can do a little bit more work and we can have this be a lot more efficient and a lot more impactful.
I'm always interested in hearing about how I can ask the technical team members to do more work for me. I'm sorry, Damien.
It's not. I don't think it's that much work. Like they just wrote the paper, so tell me, like, what are the juiciest highlights? And like, I think like they're the best people to do that, and it's not that much more work.
No, it's not, and it's even more helpful for partners too. So Michael had mentioned, like, you know, you have a partner and he gave a presentation to them. The thing about being a small team, because, you know, as part of the original question, how do you do more with less? When you're a small team, you want all those different pieces to put out there, because the best thing that can happen to you is a partner or a friendly or someone who's looking at buying your product, they retweet it, or they repost it, or they share it with their audience. Right there, you've got instant scale, and all you've done is put out a little snippet. And a little snippet might come from someone else, but it's better than just posting, hey, here's a cool white paper, everybody should read this. No one cares about your white paper. They want to know, what is the takeaway? Where's the value? What are the outcomes of that? That's what's going to hook them.
That's something I would actually do myself. I would actually not let them do that. And Stacy actually mentioned it over here that they think that it's all excellent. So I actually like remove all the technical part from it. I digest it like with my sort of marketing language, and then I repurpose it in a way that I feel will actually give them the most value, because they think that everything over there is perfect.
Right.
Ooh, that's a great point. It's really going to be dependent on like how much you trust the person delivering that to know how to speak to the buyer.
Yeah, so I will say, like in my case, I'm biased towards giving them that power, because the people who write our content on our marketing team are on the marketing team. Like we have, you know, the technical writers are on the marketing team, and they've been in product marketing for 20 years. So yeah, it's a different story than if I asked maybe like a software engineer or someone on the product side who doesn't normally speak, from that perspective. Yeah, then I think clearly Michael and Damien's points are more than valid. They're right.
Awesome. So even though I promised at the beginning that this would be super interactive, we have questions from the audience that I've been ignoring. So let's get to those. All right. So first, there's Kate has a comment. This was in regards to the who has to approve the social media copy. I found very often companies who are social media noobs are like that at the top. They have a lot of executive stakeholders who want to say in what the company puts on social media. And it changes the strategy and message many of the social media managers have been trying to put into place. So that's a really interesting comment because, you know, talking back, we were saying, okay, like, you know, we're posting because the CEO wants us to post on Twitter and Reddit and TikTok and like some weird like third party new social media site that has nobody on it yet. Like, how have you guys worked through pushing back on these outside influences on what is supposed to be your marketing strategy?
Yeah, I make the analogy that it's a lot like a product roadmap. Like if the CEO or someone at the top really wants to get involved and change our product roadmap every day, I think they'll see that that's not a great idea. And I think it's the same sort of thing. Like I think of it as like, what is our campaign roadmap? And like, thank you for the feedback. And if it's an emergency or one of a kind opportunity, we'll consider it. But otherwise, this is something that will have to go on our roadmap to get into our campaign life cycle. I think, you know, when you help them understand that, as unwise as it would be to change what the product is every day or who we're targeting with the product every day, hopefully they can recognize that it also doesn't make any sense from a marketing perspective to change what our strategy is every day. And again, I focus on trying to make tactical as dirty a word as possible and strategy as I guess a word with as much value as possible there, just to remind everyone that you know, this kind of thrashing around of identity and purpose and strategy is just it's not effective.
Yeah, I would say executives getting involved in the day-to-day is just, that's not what they're there for, right? You guys, meaning executives, you started a company, you've been hired to run a company, you have this vision, you have these grand ideas, and you've got 1,000 things on your to-do list. You're also not the social media manager, right? It's really important to have buy-in from them in terms of like the guidelines or the themes. Sam keeps using the word campaigns, same idea, same concept, right? Understand from them, what are the big talking points or takeaways that you want to shape when you're producing content and talking about it on social media, but don't get involved specifically in the copy itself. And if you arm your social media team or your content writers with that guideline basically around the themes or the campaigns, let them do their job. Don't get involved. Like, this is their expertise and what they're here for. Let them do their thing. And if you want to have, you know, a monthly review, quarterly review of social content that's out there and give like feedback or cadence of, I didn't really like this, or this particular thing really resonated with me, that'll help the social media expert or the content writer do a better job without overstepping.
Very well. And Damien, you make a very, very good point about them not getting involved. One thing that I found that's very interesting in both companies that I joined. Sorry, no, it's just noise. What happened was there was a PR agency that was working for the company, and the PR agency was running social media. And as soon as I heard that, I'm like, get out the door. Nobody is running social media for this company other than someone who's inside the company. You cannot have someone from the outside managing your social media. And at my previous position, when I was a little bit more junior, there was someone from our Mexico team who was running social media. And although it looked good, it was completely ineffective. And I asked to take complete ownership of social media because I wanted it to be run, you know, by my department or by myself. And I asked my CEO, give me the creativity give me the creative freedom to post whatever I want. You hired me for this job. Trust me that I know what I'm doing. But if I mess up, if I do something that's wrong or that doesn't seem right, let me know and I won't do it again. But let me make my mistakes. Let me do the testing to see what works and what doesn't work. And that's worked fairly well. I did have a couple of posts where my CEO was like, Michael, what the hell did you just post? Take it off immediately. And I'm like, hold on a second. Okay, erased it. Now why? What's wrong with what I posted? And then he told me, listen, it doesn't resonate with, you know, the brand image, or I'll get specific. When COVID came out, I have a friend who's a nurse, and she explained guidelines, you know, wash your hands, wear a mask, and other stuff. And I posted that on my social media page. And he's like, Michael, are you a doctor? No. So why are you posting medicinal stuff? You know, it's not your business. Don't post things that are not relevant to the company. And I took it off. So he had a very good point, and he was right. So nobody saw that because it was a few minutes after it was posted. But still, there are things that you will have to let your social media guys make those mistakes. You have to give them the creativity or the freedom to make those mistakes, because if you don't try, you'll never know.
Good point. So on that, I want to hear if you guys have any, and not everybody has to answer this. What social media snafus or things that you tried that did not work that you expected to work? I'd love to hear about any of those if you have any to offer. So like you, Michael, you did yours with the COVID post. Like any others? That was like pretty good.
I have more, unless you guys want to go ahead of me.
I'll throw a quick one out. We did a blog post that then got pushed to all of our social media channels called "The VPN is Dead." And the week that it came out, it resonated really well. Like it was probably one of the best blog posts that we had at the time. And then a week later, COVID hit. And like we started getting outreach from our customers being like, you can't say the word dead on social media in the middle of COVID. So we very quickly had to change that, even though it was resonating really well.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't have anything that's particularly juicy or interesting, other than maybe just some obvious things that, like early on, I played around with not only posting my own content, but then also just sometimes just resharing things without much comment from other colleagues of mine or from our official channel presence, and those things received just almost no impression or engagement interaction, and so the lesson to me was, I have a voice, and that's what the people who interact and follow me, that's what they want to hear, and trying to use it for anything else is it's just not a good use of time, and it's not a great use for the brand. And the way I look at it is, what I do isn't individually as a maybe like a thought leader or an evangelist for ZeroFox and for digital risk protection isn't any better or more impactful or more significant than what my marketing team or what my sales team does. They're all different, and they're all important. And I don't need to try to replicate the purpose of my marketing team and their voice on social. And I don't need to try to replicate my sales team. I think that diversity is actually a good thing. And I think I know we're going to talk about authenticity at some point, but I think it lends some authenticity to our overall messaging as well.
Perfect. So this brings me to the next point of politics. This is an election year. 4 years ago, when I was a photographer and I used to work at an Italian-American company in New York City, I remember my boss called me into his office. He's like, Michael, you and every other worker, I want you to listen well. This is an election year. If I find out that any of you speak about our customers or about politics, you're out the effing door. Politics and business don't go together. So if you're managing your company's corporate account and you believe in Black Lives Matter, you believe in gay rights, you believe in Trump or Biden should be president, good for you. Post that on your social page, on your personal page, post that on your own Facebook, post that on your Twitter, not on your company page. I can tell you an example of a story that has happened with Black Lives Matter. Actually, there was a company, not mine, but I'm not going to mention their name. They made an email campaign for Black Lives Matter. They said that we will donate money to the Antifa or Black Lives Matter for every purchase. And it turned out to be an absolute disaster. They got backlash from a lot of their customers who were in police enforcement or were on the other side of that. And it really caused a tremendous brand damage where they had to pause all the campaigns. They had to send an apology email to everybody. So politics, believe in it. Everyone should do what's good for them, not on your company's corporate page.
Interesting point of view. That's very interesting, especially given that a lot of, goodbye, Michael. Went out with a bang. A lot of
my kids just walked in, so I'm just changing rooms. That's all.
Yeah, no problem. Interesting that, especially considering it's a very tough line for cybersecurity companies in particular to walk, because a lot of us do service literally the government and also government entities and the systems. So who else has I think Damon, hold on. I think that came from the topic of authenticity. And like, anyone else have comments on that?
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting topic because it's very relevant right now.
Sure. So I'm happy to talk a little bit more about authenticity, although it's a little bit of a turn from Michael's comments. I think around Michael's comments, I think he's right that you have to be aware of what, again, it's the same idea of like, you just don't wake up this morning and decide what you want to tweet for your company. That's just not a good idea. And there's some companies and brands, and again, maybe more in the in the B2C space than in the B2B space, where and I don't mean to sound cynical for around any of these sorts of things, and I have my own personal views. But some companies, it ends up being part of their brand is to support certain causes and things like that, or to be totally agnostic or whatever. And obviously, I think in enterprise security, it probably isn't the space for those things. But that being said, I do think when you run a company full of people, you are your own community as well. And I do think, for instance, like we had some internal messaging around some of these very relevant social topics this year within our company to let our employees know who we are as a company and who we want to be and how we reflect our values to each other and with ourselves. And I think that's an important decision that needs to be made by the executive team and the leadership if you want to take a stance on these sort of things that are maybe that are more tied to personal beliefs or political beliefs or whatever. But that being said, going back to just the idea of authenticity in this space, I think, and we talked about this a little on the pre-call, I think this is where that diversity of content is just as important as diversity of voices. It's so, and it's funny because I think back, maybe this does tie into what Michael was saying a little bit. I think to like certain people on my Facebook feed, I won't name them and they're not here, but like there's certain people that pop up that I've known for a long time, and they just, every time they post something, it's negative. They're just negative point of view all the time. And it doesn't matter whether I agree with them or don't agree with them, but it's just, at some point it's draining. And I find myself snoozing people for 30 days. And then when they come back, I'm like, oh yeah, it was so nice. I forgot what this was like. I've gotten to the point where I've just unfollowed them, but not unfriended them. And I think you have to think of a similar thing, maybe not from that same perspective on social, but it's like, if all you're ever doing is cheerleading your product and how amazing it is, et cetera, it's going to sound really monotonous. And at some point I'm going to tune it out and I don't want to hear it. And I think especially there was a question in the chat about how like security buyers are different. One of the things that we are is we're very, I think we're very calloused to promises and wild proclamations because we've been bitten by them too many times before. So, the best thing I think you can do for your brand is to not only champion yourself and your product, but champion other ideas and other people and other products or articles or industry research that is relevant to what you do. Give people something to sink their teeth into without having to ask themselves, is there an agenda here? And is this only showing me a positive light, so that I will buy something? I think we're really sensitive to that and we shy away from that. It's a turnoff. And I would say even just like earlier in this video call, like I talked about another security company, Axonius, because I saw they did something really great. Now, like, I don't get anything from that, but like, I don't think when you point out other great content to people, then they respect you and they trust you even more. So we should never be afraid to give someone else a pat on the back or draw someone's attention to something else that's interesting that we had nothing to do with, or that we don't necessarily get anything out of.
I would say that, Sam, the concept you're talking about is winning on brand, right? It's not about just driving revenue or driving leads. It's you want to win deals on brand because people know your brand and they know kind of what you stand for and then like the positions you take and where your real core strengths are. And in terms of like, being authentic and sharing content, I'm a big believer in the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the things you're putting on social media should be helping other people, research, commentary, engagement. 20% of the time you promote your product, whether it's a direct promotion, a campaign, an event. If you're just constantly in this take mode of wanting to get leads and conversations out of social media, you're already off to a bad start there. You need to be able to give value back. And for putting strategy aside for a second, if you look at it from a tactical perspective, there are 3 types of social media posts that always resonate, right? It's something to do with an acquisition or an announcement or someone that got seed funding. Everybody loves those. They always go, very strongly in a share. proprietary research, like the Verizon DBIR, right? Everybody loves that. Or if you have proprietary research to your company, or if there is some sort of major threat, hack, event, breach, use your favorite buzzword here. Those three topics almost always resonate on social media. And it isn't that you need to take a position like, oh, if you had our product, we could have stopped that. Yeah, that never flies. It's more of a, where did the breach come from? How did it happen? Educate people, whether it's on a technical perspective, on a policy perspective, how certain governance standards play into that. Just be someone who engages in the conversation, not just shoving your product down someone's throat.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the idea is be in the community, be a part of the community if you want the community to interact with you. And I think it's as simple as that, really.
All right, so closing comment. Oh, go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say that the people who we sell to, and Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, they're sick and tired of hearing about. Well, first of all, they're sick and tired of seeing the hacker in the hoodie. That's the first thing they're sick and tired of seeing. The second thing they're sick and tired of seeing is cyber companies exacerbating the risk. We keep saying, I heard a CISO tell me, if I hear one more time about Norsk Hydro, or if I hear one more time about, the Equifax cyber attack, I'm going to jump off a cliff, because they hear about it so many times from everyone, and everyone talks about how big the problem is. Thank you, Sam. What they actually really want to hear, they want to hear about what you can do to stop it. What innovative solution do you have that can actually stop this? So not what the problem is, how you can actually solve it. And people love to feed on the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And what I believe is, it's important, make FUD an appetizer, just not the main course. That's it.
That's a great point. And I think we had on our last fireside chat style event, we had the Cyberwire on, and they said something similar. They said, like we don't care about like whatever trending like thing we see everybody sends us like, oh, this like there's a new attack every day, and they people. And we had the CSO on, he was like I don't care, it's all noise at the end, because it's not what it is it's like just trying. It's very obvious that it's for marketing purposes, and not just seeing like an unending stream of like, here's this attack is not of interest to that specific CEO, CSO.
Yeah. But I think if you think about it from like a BuzzFeed kind of spin, where if you can instead publish a story where you're like, 5 things that these attacks mean for a different cyber future, then like that's a different story, right? Like if you're just kind of regurgitating all that same stuff, fine. But if you can like weave a story together, or give me some analysis on like why this is indicative of some broader trend that I should really be focusing, like then you'll get my attention. But yeah, to Michael's point and your point, like if you're pushing to me that same news story that everyone else is pushing, whatever, I don't care.
Right. So Hilda has been, oh, go ahead, Michael, you first.
Sorry, so one more comment. I just want to explain how I was able to put all that together with like something actionable for the audience over here, and how I was able to help with the social media of the company. So at my previous company, we decided to do some research. We were a cyber deception company, which lays out traps and honeypots for hackers to come in. And what we did was we actually built, healthcare was one of the big verticals we were targeting. If they would have done it today, it would have been much better. But healthcare was one of the big verticals we targeted. And what we did was we built an entirely fake healthcare organization, which means a fake hospital with fake beds and fake IoT devices and MRI and machines, and a fake website with customer data, like a complete fake network. And what we did was we sold that through connections to hackers on the darknet market. We poured ourselves a glass of scotch, we lit a cigar, and we watched the hackers hack the living crap out of that hospital. Then we took all of the findings, and then we put that into a comprehensive report, and we showed exactly how they attacked, where they attacked. We showed everything in the system. And what happened was, when we released that white paper, our social media followers went up by like 1,700% over the course of a month. So that's how you can take content that's relevant to your users, put that on social media, and get more followers with the right stuff. That's all.
That is amazing. I love that. I love a really good, I don't want to call it a stunt, right? Like building a fake hospital website and selling it to hackers, but like that is like mwah, like I love it.
There's more to the story. So the hackers didn't actually give us money. What they did was they traded us credentials of 2 additional hospitals. It's like, you know what, hacker, you'll give us this hospital, we'll give you 2 more. So we went to both of those hospitals and said, hey, look what we found on the darknet. Our security solution can actually help you. And we got both of those as customers.
Holy cow. That's amazing. Wow. So king of memes, by the way, everybody, Michael is our king of memes. So he won best memes 2020 at the Cybersecurity Marketing Society's Cyber Marketing Con. And I'm going to bestow a new title, King of Stunts, if that's okay.
Michael's he's always stunting on us.
Hilda's been, hi Hilda, I can see your questions. I'm so sorry. We're going to get to them. So Hilda, do you want to go on screen with us? Hi. Do you want to ask your question live? Silence. Okay. So Hilda has a couple of questions. So first, that were in the chat, and I want to make sure we get to them. So because we only have 8 minutes left, actually. So first off, how long did that exercise take, Michael? Hilda wants to know, and I want to know too.
It took us 4 months. It took us 4 months to put it together.
4 months. Wow, that's awesome. And then there was another question. So like for people who have 20, for like many years of marketing experience, which is again, a lot of our audience of people who are marketers who are sort of fresh to cybersecurity. What are recommended core skills to help grow in the cybersecurity segment?
Analytics is definitely a big one, right? There is so much data out there. I mean, Michael's exercise that he put together, you're gonna get a lot of data from that. If you don't know how to pick the data apart and then tell a story out of that data, you're in big trouble. So I think the analytical skills to pour through data and then the creative skills to be able to tell a story, very, very different skill sets, but super, super important, especially in the cyberspace where everyone's either, you think we're all in hoodies or everything is like buttoned up and super professional or very monotone, and kind of have to humanize that a little more.
Yeah, and I would say, I think taking what's so great about where we are today is, there's so much content available online, whether it's YouTube or white papers and PDFs and things like that. But, one of the things I would suggest is, spend a little time analyzing how your buyers think about and talk about the problems that they're facing, right? So, if there are CISO events that you can watch online that were recorded and they fit in your demographic, listen to how they talk about those problems and and what they don't say as well, and how they don't talk about them. And then I think, there's so much about kind of reflecting that kind of tone and reflecting the types of phraseology that's used that can really help you kind of, hack your way into their mindset and help you develop content that really resonates with the way that they think and the way that they speak.
So both of these points, I believe, are extremely important. There is one thing that I would like to add another layer to that. When I started thinking about how I can, at Skate Defense, where I'm at now, the industrial cybersecurity company, I started thinking, how can I get better decisions? How can I get better data? How can I do all that? I actually reached out to one of my professors at university and from back in the day. And he told me, Michael, it's very, very simple. Stop thinking. Go pick up the phone and call your customer. Ask them what they want to hear. Ask them what they're interested in. And I'm like, oh, wow, that was so easy. So I picked up the phone and I asked a few of my customers, I'm like, guys, what is the biggest problem that you're facing in your industrial organization that I can write about, that you would be interested in reading? And they told me, all of them, they said, we're very scared about targeted ransomware attacks. I'm like, perfect. So I reached out to my CTO and I said, I want to do an incident response to a cyber attack. And I actually want to write down everything that happened in an industrial targeted ransomware attack. And I want to create a white paper about that. And it took us some time to put together, but it did happen. We did get a phone call. We flew our incident response team to another country. They installed the platform. They did what was needed to be done. And we put together a full comprehensive report. And so with a limited budget that I had, I started posting this. And within 2 weeks, we got over 100 opportunities that have come in from not just from organic, but also from paid. And my CEO told me, he's like, Michael, our salespeople are exhausted. They cannot keep up with it. Stop the campaigns. I'm like, okay, that's great. So when, and I'm talking to all of you, speak to your customers, ask them what they want to hear, and that's what you write about. And after you have that, then you run the data and analytics, and you see what works, which platforms work better, which messaging works better. And then afterwards, you can take that and focus on what you can do next.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
as marketers, we like to say that we spend a lot of time with customers. In reality, it usually gets kind of backburnered quite often, right? If you're not sitting on 1 to 2 sales calls a week or a customer call a week, you're not doing it right. You've got to be constantly listening to what people are saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you don't get the messaging right if you're not on the, if you don't hear the right messaging, you use the wrong messaging. And I've made this mistake in the past by not dedicating the time. It's like, no, I prefer to work on another white paper. It's like, no, sit in a sales meeting, listen to what they're talking about. And then that makes you as a marketer, especially myself, I've been in cybersecurity marketing for less than 3 years. And I've done crazy things because I'm always focusing on how can I make my knowledge, how can I raise my knowledge, how can I be more like Sam the doctor, you know, how can I learn more more on the technical side, which is lacking, and I still have a long way to go. But as Damien said, if you listen in on sales calls, you will become 100% smarter, and you'll know what your customers want.
And I want to point out one other thing here that Michael's done, again subtly but brilliantly, is highlight the need for customer marketing as much as prospect marketing, right? You shouldn't stop marketing to your customers once they are members of your community. And what Michael did here by talking to his customers, he also put on his account management hat or his customer success hat, right? And he should get a spiff for when they renew at the end of their term, because they felt seen and they felt heard by this company, and they felt like this company is focused on their problems and listened to what they care about, and then put out some content and perhaps maybe even made some changes later down the road on the product roadmap, et cetera. And so I think that's hugely important too, because now you have someone else going out there and telling people how wonderful Michael's company is, because wow, they give us so much personal attention, or they listen to us, or they come to us and ask us what we care about. And again, I think that's a part of that bigger picture of brand brand work.
I forget what I forget what the percentage is, but there's a lot of research on it on the net. You can find it, but it is significantly more expensive to go out and get a new customer than it is to retain an existing one. And people always forget that. Retaining your customer base is where you get fresh content from, fresh data sources, and keeping them happy keeps the lights on because they renew each year. So yeah, don't ignore people, as Sam said, once they come in, and those are your biggest advocates.
Okay.
It's quadruple the cost, by the way.
There you go.
Ooh, 4x. So we got the spiff comment on recording. So Michael, if you want to use that, we could cut that out, a little video, and you could send it to your boss. No, I'm kidding.
Dr. Small says give Michael a spiff.
They did upsell. So.
Oh, freaking great. And then I'll just throw in my one perspective is that really, which is just the same as everybody else's. So this is just me making an excuse to talk now. But really join the communities where your customers, prospects, your existing customers and your prospects are, right? Like, okay, you might be intimidated to be following, for example, InfoSec Twitter. InfoSec Twitter has a lot of practitioners on there who share a lot of stuff and talk all the time. LinkedIn, private groups, Slack groups, things that you get into and you actually get to hear from, even ethnographically research, learn what people actually talk about and care about. You should have a Reddit account and be on Reddit. And not from a marketing perspective, from I'm just learning about cybersecurity and what people want to hear about perspective. Get to know your customers, their people, get to know your prospects, their people. And it's an industry that you can easily access on the internet if you're having trouble connecting with prospects and customers in real life. So throwing that on there. Okay, so we are at the hour. Really fast, can we do a speed round? Just one, okay. So LinkedIn broetry. Everybody knows broetry. It's that direct, direct advertising style messaging. I want to hear from each of the panelists, pro or no? LinkedIn Broetry, Damien.
Depends on the day.
Oh God. Okay. Dr. Sam Small.
It's a no for me just because it's not authentic to how I speak and how I write. Sometimes it works when I see other people do it, but yeah, generally, like again, I think everyone should try to do what works for them instead of trying to copy what other people do. That's part of
Awesome.
authenticity.
Michael.
Always pro.
Pro.
I heard a story of a woman who was approached by one of those guys who, you know, like one of those annoying guys who try to sell her stuff, and she ended up converting him into a customer. So.
That's a different reason to be pro.
That's great. Well, thank you everybody so much for joining. Michael is calling in from another country, so it's actually late for him. So thank you so much. Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Michael. Where, if you're open to people reaching out to you, where should they reach out to you? On Damien?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Okay.
Yeah,
names in the word. So Dr. Sam?
So if you're a member of the Cyber Marketing Society, then I'm happy to chat with you on Slack. If you're not, why aren't you? You should join. I'm not paid for that. I don't have any spiffs for that. And then outside of that, I would say LinkedIn is probably the next best way to get in touch with me.
Gianno, you should pay Sam Small.
You should have a political ad.
I have like 20 more topics that I still didn't cover. So if you guys have more questions.
Part 2 coming soon.
Oh yes, my gosh, yes. We will have to do another one of these. This was really fun. I hope everybody watched and enjoyed. And I hope panelists, you had fun and you can't say no because you're on video and it would be really awkward. So we'll have to absolutely do another one. Everybody attending and watching this recap on YouTube, join us. Follow our LinkedIn. That's where we post all of our events. And thanks so much for being here, everyone. Taking time out of your day. All right. Have a great one.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Gianna.
Thank you.